Hello and welcome to the Six Star Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Aveline Clarke, and you're about to listen to another incredible episode with an amazing human all about how they are making a difference in the world using their passion, their purpose, and the alignment of their genius. Because I believe that we make the greatest impact in our life when we combine our passion with our purpose and our genius. That's where the magic happens. This conversation is going to be good because they always are. There's so much to gain from these. They're beautiful, they're inspiring, and I invite you to open up to see the possibilities of what you can do in your life too. Enjoy. My next guest is the lovely Ellen Tyler. She's known as a transformation business coach, but what does that really mean? It means she just makes people's lives so much more enriching and better and happier. She has 30 years of business experience behind her, predominantly in financial services, where she was very successful and she just learned a lot. In her early days, she actually was mentored personally by Bob Proctor and learned a lot from his genius and has been able to take that into the work she does today. From her early days in financial services to now, Ellen's knack for business growth, whether it was individual or corporate, has been consistent. And it's not just about business for her. Her approach touches every aspect of people's lives. She wants them to become the full version of who they are, who they're meant to be. And she believes that success isn't about waiting for opportunities, it's about creating them. For those that are ready to take control, to truly own their lives and businesses, she is a guiding light that can help turn aspirations into achievements. She explains a lot of her process and the why and her story in this conversation, and it's really illuminating. She also gives some tidbits about some books that she recommends, and also a process of just seeing where we are today and seeing where we want to be. In Ellen's own words, she wants her children's grandchildren to know her name. That's her purpose. And she's here to help other people leave similar legacies. So enjoy this one. It's a beautiful conversation with Ellen Tyler. Hello, here we are. It's another episode. I'm so excited. I'm here with Ellen Tyler. Ellen, thank you so much for joining me on Six Star Leaders podcast today.
I am happy to be here, Aveline.
I'm happy to have you. I'm really excited. The moment we met, I knew that you're a special lady and there was a connection, and I thought I just have to have you on the podcast and learn more about you and your story and share that with the world. So here you are, and we are now ready to get into all the good stuff. So please tell the listeners, whereabouts are you in the world?
So I'm in what is normally sunny Atlanta, Georgia, which is not so sunny today, but it's a beautiful place to be.
Oh, wonderful. And tell me, who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Well, I'm going to give the really easy answer because it's what most people are curious about. I, because of my background and who I am, knew that I was meant to serve those individuals that decided to bet on themselves and leave. And I even stopped saying corporate because sometimes they just left a job. Sometimes they just left a job and decided that it was time to do something different, or there was a cause that they were fond of and that they wanted to make a difference in the world. And I heard this phrase and I thought it just ties in beautifully, is that my clients want to be the person that their children's grandchildren know their name. My favorite thing. But at the end of the day, Aveline, it's people who want to do a little bit better, who want to serve their clients, their family, their community, and they don't have the operating manual to get past the beginner's one. That's what I will say.
You've described them really beautifully, and I love what you said about your children's grandchildren knowing your name. Haven't heard that before, and it just makes you stop and go, wow, do I want my children's grandchildren to know my name?
Yep.
Well, yeah. So specifically, Ellen, now I know the people that you're serving. So how do you serve them?
So I like to say that I take their hand and that I hold the picture that's bigger than them because they don't believe it yet. And I help them catch up to it so they can have it. Usually, most people want to have a conversation with me because they think it's money. And money is just energy, but money is how we score ourselves. It's how we know if we're doing good based on that. But once they understand that they can be, do, and have what they want, then they understand what I tell them in the very beginning. You're going to come in because you think you need help earning more money, increasing your revenue. And it's really about the person you become who gets to be the person who has that kind of income that you want. So it's all about becoming. It's the person, we become the person we're meant to be.
That's beautiful. So you help to facilitate them moving into the place of becoming the person they're meant to be.
Yeah. Someone said to me the other day, which is always interesting, most people raise their hand because they have a problem and they think they need a certain thing. And even though I know I get to help them clear some of the chatter in their head and learn that they're not saying the nicest things to them and they wouldn't say it to their best friend, we don't lead with that. But even though it's some of the most important work that we get to do is to learn that we become what we think about all day long, that's not what they think they need yet. Then they know they need that. I just like to ask the question, well, what's the last thing your head told yourself? Usually not nice.
Wow, I'm looking forward to getting stuff more into this. But Ellen, I don't know. I don't know that you woke up one day, like as a little girl, and said, "I'm going to be this person that holds people's hands and help them become who they're meant to be." There's got to be a journey that you've been on that's brought you to this place that has the wisdom, and I can tell the maturity and the knowledge of this. So would you like to share with me the journey that you've been on that's brought you to where you are today?
Always. And I stopped trying to say, let me shorten this up because I also learned that I just tell stories because stories are what helps my clients see it in a different way. And it is to really understand the story of who we are is why we get to serve the people we get to serve. And did I know that at 20? No. So I'm a science math nerd. I went to school for nuclear medicine. Then organic chemistry happened and I did not like organic chemistry. And it was just like, how can I just work? How can I get out of school and just work? And like most in our early career, sometimes we just take work to have work without any real thought about why. Why are we doing this? But if a person can think there's other resources that are going on and energy that's going on that's opening all sorts of doors for you, it's when are you paying attention? And one of my early careers, I worked in a mutual fund company and we knew this. They took all of us college graduates that didn't know what we wanted to be when we grew up and put us in a role that they were selecting who was going to do research, which I thought I was because I balance my checkbook to this day, or sales. And they picked me for sales. Now, I'm an introvert. I'm an introverted salesperson. People hear that and they think introvert is the same as shy, which my mom would have told you I was shy growing up. But here's what I've learned. Introverts recharge by quiet at night. I love talking to people. I love hearing their stories. But at the end of the day, I don't want any more noise going on around my ears. So that's what it really meant. But At 20 some years old, I also didn't have the filter of worrying what the president was going to think about me because they were moving us clear across the country. And so I asked him the really brave question, why are you putting me in sales? And he said, you have chutzpah. I'm like, okay, great hiring decision. But some of my characteristics along that career is what served me really well. I'm a really good student. Like if you tell me, put these three things together and you'll create a new thing, I will put those three things together to create a new thing. And it was because I knew that there were people ahead of me who knew how to do it, that I didn't have to recreate the wheel. And so I stayed in that world for a really long time. We ended up relocating here to Georgia. And when I came here, I'll say this as nice as I can. I worked for companies that were based in a certain region of our country. And then I was hired by a company based out of New York. And they don't have the same rules on their sandbox that we had in ours. And so it was just not understanding all the rules. And again, perfect storm. I moved to Atlanta. Somebody takes me to a Bob Proctor seminar. Now, some people know that name. I can promise you way back when I went to that seminar, the movie The Secret had not come out. People did not know who he was. But I was aware enough to know I needed some help. So I hired him and I had great results. But then came back my math and science nerd, which is check the box, take a test. I took a test. I passed it. So I worked with Bob. I had phenomenal results and then I moved on and I didn't rehire him. Which my income like tripled. And I thought, okay, I don't need him anymore. Yeah, not true. But it took a while. And that's an important inflection part of my journey because it's why I get to work with the people I do. It was a number of years past, but I'll fill in some of the blanks because it's also why I get to work with who I do. Because of the work I did with Bob, I have 5 children. 3 of them came afterwards. We adopted them from a different country. Teenagers. Don't ever teach them all to drive at the same time because we did that. Don't do that. But I get to see the ripple effect in their life. And that's a really important component as to why I left decades of financial services to do this. So fast forward a number of years, still in the corporate world, still opening offices. 7 of us were miserable in this company. And I thought I need a therapist or a coach. Discovered Bob at that point was still alive. He passed almost 2 years ago in February of 2022. A woman by the name of Sandy Gallagher had joined him. Brilliant woman, just brilliant in what she did. She took everything in his head, which is in all the books behind me because we're not proprietary. It's one of the things that is so wonderful. And she put it into a system that anyone could follow. So if you remember, I said I'm a really good student. And if you give me a process, I can follow it. And I thought, well, okay, I'm not that crazy. I will hire them again because I knew. And about 2 months into hiring them for them to be my coach, they made the offer to come and be mentored by them and become a coach and a consultant, utilizing their resources. I left decades of working as a financial advisor to go do that. Friends and peers thought I was crazy. I am a really good financial planner. I'm a really good financial advisor. But I also have a really strong belief that we don't ever stop working while we're here. And some people don't like the word work, but if I can't be of value and serve someone, and when Bob was alive, he was the age of my dad. And I looked at the difference between them. And I'm like, well, who would I choose to be? Bob. Bob did his last seminar in December and he passed in February. So he did everything. And it was that decision that made the difference in the world. So I knew I was going to work with people like me. I knew that my journey was why I was going to work with individuals that knew there was something better, but they just didn't have the rule book, that my clients care about their families and their clients in their community. I like to say they're humble and hungry. And the other, I don't work with anyone I don't like. My clients become my friends, but my clients also want to make a difference. And the difference could be in their family. It doesn't have to be huge, but there's a lot of families that need help. And when I made that leap, the other area that highlights for my clients is I resigned in March of 2019. And I always do the disclaimer now. I am perfectly fine now. But in July of 2019, I had open heart surgery because they discovered a little valve decided not to work so well. And you wouldn't have known, you wouldn't have had any clue. But July of 2019, I'm doing physical therapy with the 90-year-olds in cardiac rehab, which is hysterically funny anyways. And again, it's all about stories. And then we all know what happened in 2020. So when somebody is frightened or fearful or worried, there is never a great time to start a business. I look at them, I go, do you think that was great timing? Oh, let's quit. Let's have some open heart surgery and let's have a pandemic. All of those points, I can probably pick up the phone today and get a job back in that world. But that helps my clients understand you cannot wait for a perfect time. There is no perfect time. And through all of that is when I realized I was always an entrepreneur in the financial world because I would just change companies and roles and open this division and that. And I thought, okay, I'm an entrepreneur who didn't want to Entrepreneur Anonymous, because my dad was one. And I have a really unique knack of looking at businesses and then taking the work that Bob Proctor spent his life doing, and Sandy has refined and is just refining it every single day to have huge, significant shifts in people's lives. Bob's goal was to have coaches in every country in the world before he passed, which we did, so that more people could get the help that they need. I can't think of a better thing to do. But all of that is why I do this work. And it's why I know my clients need to have the same kind of stories. Like their why has to be big enough. My why of wanting to help people have that same experience is because I see the impact on all of my children, but the ones who had a little bit more of a challenge in some of their early years. Huge difference. One's a functional neurology chiropractor. One is in one of the largest healthcare organizations in the world actually now. And the other does great web design. And my other two, but I get to see that ripple effect because they have changed the direction of their ancestry and their DNA.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, Ellen. It was just so interesting. I love hearing people's stories, and I especially love the way you have shared the journey you went on. And it's interesting because you were obviously in a very safe industry, a job, and you were obviously successful, probably paid well, and all of a sudden you stepped out. So what was that part of you that felt that you needed something else, like that adventure or something different?
The way that I liken it is that we all have purpose. We have purpose, vision, and goals. Purpose is the overarching, like what are we here for? And the vision is how do you deliver it? And for a really long time, my purpose was in the financial world because my dad was medically retired at 40 with a stroke. A lot of women don't understand financial. A lot of them don't understand investments. And so the way it was delivered, the vision was to help those individuals make good financial decisions so that they didn't have to worry they wouldn't be able to retire. When you are successful in financial services, the reward is the companies would like you to talk to people who don't really need your help. And I say that in a way, people are happy to help people with 100 million and 10 million, and I get that. But I wanted to help the people with less than that. And I was not serving them. And that last iteration probably shined a spotlight on it more than anything else. And you always have to think there's gifts with how you react to what's going on. I could have easily found another job within that world. Easily. But what they had done is they had taken 7 of us who are very relationship driven. So as advisors or planners, we like to have conversations. I like to hear stories. I like to hear people's stories and make their stories better. And they put us in what I call pure sales hell. And I love selling because selling is serving when done right. But in the role that they envisioned with how the company was structured is that at the beginning of a relationship, I got to meet the person. I got to ask all sorts of questions and find out about where they wanted to go. I got to do the proposal, do the presentation. And then when they decided to choose us for the investments, I had to tell them that they didn't get to talk to me anymore. At all. Like now you get to talk to and you get to talk to the much younger person, not me. And when anyone understands selling, it really is they were buying because of me and all my other peers that came there to serve like that. And so when you're not serving, it just sucks your soul. And so I think that had to happen to make me really consider the change. In fact, I first had hired Bob and Sandy to coach me. And then when I made that decision, I actually took out to lunch one of my favorite managers that I had ever worked for. And I had sent him the information and I just wanted his opinion. Not that I ever make decisions based on someone else's thoughts. And what was interesting, he said, I always thought you would open your own financial planning shop. I'm like, isn't that interesting? Because I am really good in that world. He said, but I never wanted to do that. In fact, every opportunity I had to do that, I kept telling them no. Because this is what I'm supposed to do. And when you realize all money is a barometer and it's a tool to find out how we are doing, it's always there. So I have the ability to do whatever I want. And now I would never go back to the corporate side ever. And I think when you can discover you either work for a company and you're following their goals and that they don't care about yours, and you choose to bet on yourself and invest in yourself, are we going to fail? Sure. We fail our way to success. The only time we really fail is when we quit. And that's one thing. Like I am like the most persistent person. Like I don't ever quit. If you tell me that now, I'm like, oh, okay. And I also realize it's also so my clients understand you can earn what you want. I earned what I want over in the financial world. But what's your next act?
There's so much in there, Ellen. And I also love that you love telling stories. I bet you've got so many great stories. I mean, wow.
So I'm going to tell you something while you think about stories because I love this. I just love stories of those young kids. So they had never been to Chicago, and we took them to Chicago. The youngest at that point was maybe 13, 14, and we're in an elevator, and I just talked to people. one, I think when you don't, it's like you're not treating them like a human being. And we get out of the elevator and she just looks at me and she goes, "Do you have to talk to everyone?" And I go, "Yes." But here's the kicker. That child now talks to everyone.
Thank you for sharing that. I am that kind of person. I go out and I just talk to people. It's rare when I don't. It's only if I'm having, I guess a bad day, but I'm with my kids and yeah, I'm always talking to people. And it was funny because my son, who's shy, a little introverted, going through some stuff, he's 13. He said to me a week or so ago when we're in a lift going up in a shopping centre, he said this exact same thing. So now I'm going to be watching in the future as to if he also just talks to everybody.
You will.
Yeah, I love it. Now, Ellen, I know Bob Proctor. I'm pretty sure I learnt of him through The Secret, which most people did.
Yep.
And if they didn't see the movie, they read the book or heard about him afterwards. How impactful was he in your life at the time? Him specifically.
Oof. Probably made some of the, I don't even think I could quantify it. I think it was, he was the first person who really said that he has to hold the picture. And that's really what I tell my clients now, because school takes dreaming out of us. It really does. And then you get into the corporate world and we don't realize that everybody has a filter just sitting in their head. They don't think they do. And so many things. I don't even know how to unpack it. But what I think I appreciated about him most, because I'll go back to being that science math person, he did all the research. And there's just been this interesting shift from when I first worked with him to now, because now all the science people are coming out. Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, and I love that. I actually love that. It's just more enforcement of what Bob knew. But when he was studying this, nobody was studying this. And the fact that he started to try to understand and left a business that he had started that was making $1 million to help other people, that in and of itself was the character of that person. And what he also highlighted is that it's not proprietary. It's in all the books going back to the Bible. And for anyone who thinks it's woo-woo or not, and it was just the way that he could tie it all together. And then you add Sandy to that layer later. She's just Bob in female form because of her story. But it's like the undeniable facts that are in all of those books, every single one, that you couldn't argue with. And so for anyone who wants to poke holes in what he did, and like, he was considered the best of the best. People looked up to him. But here's what I also appreciated. He was never done. He wasn't done. He wasn't perfect. He had his faults, just like all of us. He didn't perfectly do everything, though he did a lot of things perfect. But the best thing he said to us new coaches is that you just have to be a step in front of your clients, and so many people need your help. And the legacy will continue. And I think that signals his ability to pull out the important aspects of what a person needs to do to have the dream life. He had a dream life. And I don't think you can quantify that enough. But some people will just glaze over it. They're like, yeah, I did this. I did the work. his life's work allows us to have a life that we want because we just repeat it over and over and over and over again. And that's also why that period of time from the first time I worked with him and the first time nobody knew who he was. But he was just known in that industry. But he would tell you that the secret didn't tell you the secret. But all those people in that movie are highly regarded on my list. Michael Beckwith, John Ostroff, Marie Diamond. I know I missed some, but then when I watch it again, I go, oh, and they've all gone on to shine the spotlight on what does really work. It all does.
It does. And they've all got their own genius or their own filter or, their specialty in where
Yes.
they shine in the world, which is just lovely. You touched on a few things in what you've said. And first of all, that the material, the reading, the knowledge is not proprietary, as in it's all there. It didn't,
Mhm.
Bob didn't come up with it. It's been around for eons, and he's obviously pulled it all out or presented it in a certain way. Would that be right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the only asterisk I would add is he probably did research into individuals that weren't known. One of them was Dr. Thurman Fleet out of San Antonio, Texas, and nobody really has studied him, but he created the ability to understand conscious and subconscious and draw it where people could understand it. So pretty much when Bob was alive, if somebody said, you should go listen to this person, he would. And sometimes he didn't know how the dots were going to connect. And then all of a sudden they would connect. That was his specialty.
Was he guided by just intuition, messages, guidance, just fully trusted in it?
Well, he would tell you in the beginning that when Ray Stanford took pity on him, that he was a horrible student. Like he basically said he wasn't going to do what Ray Stanford told him to do, which was read, think, and grow rich. For whatever reason, he started to do that. And he would tell you he was an unconscious competent because he didn't know why he did what he did. I used to love the story. I don't even know how you make these battery operated record players. And way back then, Earl Nightingale out of Chicago, so Nightingale Conant, who really did start the personal development publishing, had a record version of Think and Grow Rich. And Bob would drive around with it in his car listening to it. So that was repetition, but he couldn't tell you that's why he was doing it. He just knew. And so there were all sorts of pieces like this. And it probably really all came together when he gave up the cleaning business that was doing $1 million a year to go work for Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant in Chicago because he wanted to get close to them. And that's where he started to put together. He learned about Wallace Wattles, which is what The Secret was made from, which is the science of getting rich. And it was during that time, he actually went to Earl and said, we should teach people this, not just sell it. And Earl was like, no. So then Bob started. But there's just great inflections when he talks about, one of the things Earl said is that, why do we believe that others can do something and yet we think we can't? And you'll find yourself noticing that throughout. And what really propelled Bob was when it was the belief that he couldn't speak. He just adopted what other people did. So I would tell you, I think it's the fact when he worked for Earl and Lloyd is why he became who he was. Again, however he was led there, but that's where he did.
Yeah.
Lend you along.
And think about how many people he has touched in the process. Yeah. And lives he's changed.
Brilliant.
And yeah.
What I love about Bob, so there's a name you may not be familiar, Alex Morton. Alex Morton is a young man in his 30s who was mentored by Bob. In fact, before Bob passed, they were putting together what was going to be a seminar called the Millionaire and the Mentor. Because Alex Morton's story is he was earning $400 a month as a college student and ended up being mentored by Bob and had phenomenal results. And as we tell everyone, if we can do it, you can do it. And what I love about Alex Morton is that he gives credit to Bob every single time he talks. On stage, there's a picture of Bob. And he's the through line. So we used to talk about the through line from Bob to Earl to Napoleon Hill to Andrew Carnegie. Then you can keep going down. There's Judge Thomas Troward. Well, now it's Alex Morton, who's the through line from Alex to Bob. And it's just that he or Mary Morrissey and a few others are going to keep Bob's legacy going. And that's what this was all about, is that his children's grandchildren will know his name.
I love it. Wow. The through line, I just have a visual of it, and it just makes me realize how connected we are. Yeah. How much does the work that you do with your clients, how much of that contains what you got taught from Bob? And how much does it have sort of evolved and like influenced by Ellen?
So in the beginning, all Bob and Sandy. I mean, truly, it is the best of the best. And after Bob passed, there were a few that maybe went on into different iterations of how they were going to deliver it. And my answer has always been, I am not going to recreate the wheel, because the process is sound and solid. So what we take people through, but what every coach brings are their stories and then what they study. And I always tell my clients, my job is to let you hear it a different way from a different story so that you can internalize in real time what that looks and feels like. And it really is just like you think about wrapping the layers, and it's to help them understand. So some of the reasons I know I get to work with the clients, sometimes I'm the first coach, but because of that journey that I took, I said, you need to know what coach you're hiring next. Well, I think I'm like lovely and great, and I'm not the only one you ever need. You might want to do a health journey. You might need to do all sorts of different journeys that others will help you better. But my ability on the business side just allows them to, one, trust in me. I sold $1 billion in fixed income for an asset manager. So when they talk about selling, I go, I kind of know that it's not that complicated. We just make it complicated. So I would say in any job, when you're a beginner, you think you don't know anything. And every year, no matter what your role is, you should be looking to expand it and become better at it all the time. I'm like, look, I get paid to have conversations like this. I get paid to read books. I'm paid to talk and tell stories. I don't know. It sounds like a pretty good job to me.
You're very good at it, Ellen. I love talking with you and listening. You said something earlier that's sitting in my mind. I would love you to expand on it. You mentioned money as a barometer. And I know the listeners to this podcast, they're all entrepreneurs, and every one of them probably focuses on money in some respect every single day. That's what. Yeah. So let's talk money. Money as a barometer, and take us from there. Love to hear more about it.
Well, let's unpack the first thing, because this happens all the time. When people are worried about money and debt, they're just going to create more debt. So that's most of us, because all I have to do is ask somebody, do you wake up and your mind is already racing about money? always. I have a very active mind. And as soon as I'm awake, it's like off to the races. My husband is always like, go back to sleep. I go, my mind knows I'm awake. It has the control knob. So it doesn't work that way. But I always want everyone to hear first that the more we think about debt and the more we think about the problem of not having enough, the more we're creating not having enough. Now, that's probably upset some people because they're like, but Ellen, okay, but how do I get from here to there? So how we get from here to there is to become the person there that has the money. I know it's like a riddle, but I'll unpack it for a bit. Because this really is the journey I get to help people on. And while we want to know what the goal is, so we'll just pick numbers. So let's say somebody wants to earn $500,000. Well, back up. I've worked with clients that say, I just want to make more money. They go, well, the universe and God doesn't know what more money is. They'll give you $1 and there you go. We have to be very, very specific because we're giving an order. It's like, do I want vanilla ice cream or pistachio? Because if I don't tell the universe what I want and they give me chocolate, then that's on me for not placing the order. And it goes all the way back to the beginning of, first of all, understanding how do we even come up with a goal? But we'll leave that for another one because let's just presume that this is the best goal for them. And this is the dollar amount. The process that they get to go through to have more money is to make the decisions today as the person who has $500,000. Now, that's like, okay, how do I do that, Ellen? I would do that if I could do that. Well, it starts with habits and it starts with understanding if we keep doing the same things we are today, only a little bit harder, we're not going to really have a quantum leap. There's a great book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy that is 10x is easier than 2x. And it really is helping people understand just working harder isn't going to accelerate the income with what I want. So we have to work different. Well, working different just means what I have been doing isn't working. So I might want to start uncovering some ways that I could do something different. There's some great exercises and we can certainly go through that. But to get to be a person who has the 500,000 that I'm not today, I've got to pick some habits that I'm not doing. And this is the building blocks of what we build on. These are actually like the first 2 and 3 things that we do because they're so important in anything that we're doing. The first is to ask yourself the question, what's not working? When I get to a 500,000, let's say I need 100 clients to do that. We've got 10. It's usually something with sales, but we just identify what's not working. It's always interesting. Somebody will say, well, this one thing. I go, you probably have 10 things that aren't working, but let's pick the one that you know is going to help you get there. Because one of the big areas is a hurdle for some. I always tell those that I love to learn. I go, you don't have to learn anything else. You don't have to know anything else. You don't have to go read anything else. You actually know what to do. And I can help them understand that and uncover that. We all know what to do. Great. Here's what's not working. Out of that, pick the one thing that you can do. So I'll use sales as an example because most people can hear it in selling. So let's say I'm not really great at follow-up. Let's do that. So the skill and habit that I have to get better at is follow-up. Well, how do I do that? Not that hard. I can sit down and I can give myself like 3 things at the end of the day that I can do that ensure that I follow up. But here's what happens to everybody. That voice in our head, other things become more important to do. Or I just don't do it for whatever reason. And at the end of the week, I look at my 5 days and maybe 3 of them I followed up and the other ones I didn't. We just give them the tools that help them do that every day better. And so that's those two things, if anybody listening to this right now did that, their income would skyrocket by the end of the year. What's the habit that you need to do to become the person that earns that or has the 100 clients? They all know that. They know that answer. Do that one thing over and over and over again. 90 days. I always tell clients, do it for 90 days. The end of the week, here's the questions to ask. How did I do? What can I do better? Never use the word wrong. We don't care about that. How did I do this week? And you just look at it honestly. So we honestly also don't like to rate ourselves, because if we don't ask ourselves those questions, I don't have to answer that I really fell down this week and I didn't do my follow-up. Those two questions, along with the habit, game changer. How did I do? What am I going to do better next week? Come up with a plan. Do it again next week. Ask yourself those same questions. How did I do? What am I going to do better? And if you get to the point that you now are exceptional in your follow-up because it's become a habit, great. Go back to the list. What's the next thing you have to work on? Ooh, maybe I'm not great at closing. Let's work on that one.
Yeah.
And it's that loop. So for somebody that is sitting there trying to figure out how their peers in their industry are earning so much more than them, and they go, and they're not any smarter, because it's true. All they have to do is this. Sit. Nope, you're frozen again. Nope, I can hear you now.
That is so awesome, Ellen. There was so much going through our mind as you were talking, and I just want to reframe it, I guess, for the listeners. Obviously, the listeners will be processing this in their own way. But the question at the start, I asked about the money as a barometer, and what I heard is it's the habits, and then we've got to look at the end result of who we want to become. If it's money, as in what's the number, and then who does that? What would you need to be doing as that person? Come back today. That's just brilliant. Yeah. Lots in that, just in that alone, folks.
Wow. So you can count what watch are you wearing, what shoes are you wearing, what are you dressing, what are you doing, where are you sitting, all of that.
Yeah. Wow. So interesting. Ellen, this is the 6-Star Leaders podcast. One of the reasons that I think I was so connected to you and excited to have you on is because you talked about purpose, and you're helping people make a difference in their world, even if it's they're small. It doesn't have to be the globe. We've all got different size worlds, and if that's what I'm passionate about. That's what I like to highlight on the podcast, and that's why you're here, because for me, you're living on purpose, and that's, to me, what a 6-star leader is. So I just want to acknowledge you for that. I have a couple of questions around this for you. What does being...
I have...
You've got lots of answers and stories. What does being 6-star mean to you?
Oh, goodness. At the end of my life, my children's grandchildren know my name. And good and faithful servant, that I became who I was supposed to become and did what I was supposed to do.
Beautiful. Yeah. Wow. I could feel that, right? That's
all it is.
That's a goosebump moment. It's like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
It's never about the things. It's never about the things.
Even though that's what we think it's about, and we tend to focus on the things.
Like, this is energy. My watch is energy. All is energy. But do we really need it?
No. Yeah.
No, not really.
No. Ellen, what's your superpower or your genius?
So I learned this a while ago. People will tell me anything, and I'm calm. And I I hold space for people so they can start believing they can have it. But yeah, my superpower is and we did this yesterday. I had a meeting set up. You know, like when you're driving and you miss exits and you get all crazy, and that had happened, and we're talking on the phone. She's highly stressed. And I thought, and I'm driving there, and we go through a couple things when we're having conversations, and it's like, okay, what's my goal? I'm like, I think I need to help her calm down. I'm really good at this. What do I have to think? I'm pretty good at this. I like to ask questions and tell stories. So, who doesn't like that? I have pretty good stories. How do I have to feel? Like, we're just serving. We just serve. And at the end of it, it's like, and then what do we want to have happen? She's going to have a much better day. And she's now a client. And at the end of it, I asked her, because I'm always looking for, like, did I do what I said I was going to do? And I asked her, what did you expect to happen at the end of this meeting? It was in person. She goes, not this. I go, it's good. Because it meant that I could get to the place that she needed to be in to know that I could help her. Mm. And I seem to attract people that know who Bob Proctor is. So I don't have to mention too much. I'm like, they hear Bob and they go, oh, you were mentored by Bob? I'm like, yes. Okay. But yeah, it's a pretty good superpower. Sometimes I have to use it on myself.
Just hold a mirror up. Oh, wow. I love it. I love it, Ellen. That is an amazing superpower. And yeah, look, Bob's name is known amongst those that need to know him, right? And I love what you're doing and how you're creating your own legacy and the gift that you've been given. It's beautiful. And how you're sharing that with the world and helping people to become the versions of themselves that they're meant to be. Resonates so, so strongly for me. So thank you. I've just loved this. We might have to get you back for part 2 on some specific topics. As we're coming to the end, I just wanted to ask, how can people get in contact with you?
Oh, multiple ways, but here's where I hang out. They can find me on LinkedIn, which is one of the best places for entrepreneurs and business people. I love that platform, but they can also email me. It's a pretty easy, Ellen, Ellen, except when you go to Starbucks and they want to call me Alan. But it's Ellen at ellentylercoaching.com. But I always like ease. They can find my website, but you can really just find me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message and DM me and just reach out.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the best way, isn't it? Just connect.
Don't jump through hoops. I have an email and I'm on LinkedIn. Like
it's keep it simple. Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Thank you. Now, I like to ask my guests a final question, and you've given me and us so much in this conversation already, Ellen. So thank you. As we come to a close, what tidbit or nugget or some piece of, I won't say advice, but just something that you want to leave the listeners with? I'd love to hear it. Please.
They are their best investment if they ever invest in themselves. The best investment they could make. Bar none. Simple.
Wow.
Invest in yourself.
Invest in yourself.
Become better at what you do.
That's pretty powerful. Most people spend so much time and energy investing in, stuff, buying another car or a bigger TV or, spending hours watching Netflix. And
they often take more time planning a vacation and spending on it than they do themselves.
Yeah.
Crazy to me. But our job is to lead individuals to make decisions that they're worth investing in themselves. That's what this is all about. That's why you do this.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen, for your time and energy and the love and the joy that you bring to the world. I have thoroughly enjoyed you spending this time with me today, and I hope the listeners have gotten a lot out of it. I'm sure they have. Thank you.
You are welcome. It's always, look, we have to spread the information so more people hear it.
Mm.
One of the things that always surprises most, and this was Bob, I tell people exactly what we do. If they reach out and connect with me, and it's never whether I'm going to work, because if you think you're going to have a conversation and have to sell somebody, that's why yesterday happened. I wasn't going to sell her. But Bob was always like, just tell them what we do so they can go do it. So we do. I'm like, do you want this lesson? Do you want that lesson? No, you need to do this and this and this, because eventually they'll need us.
Yeah.
But if we keep it a secret, what good is that doing? I'm like,
No.
just go do the work, then come back. I give them, here's how to get money to work with Ellen. I give them a plan. It's all like Think and Grow Rich and all that. But guess what? They'll have a better life because they'll have done the work.
Yeah.
Whether they come back or not.
That's right. That's the key. And hopefully your grandchildren's children will know your name, and hopefully theirs will too.
Yep. Because if we're so focused on it has to come like from you, we're missing the door over there that has 10 people that need help. Just serve.
Thank you. Just serve. That's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Oh, thank you, Ellen. I wish I could reach over and give you a hug.
No.
There's a few miles between us.
I was going to say, next time, just have me in your studio audience.
Okay, that sounds perfect. I'd love that.
I would love that.
Me too. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful evening. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to connecting with you soon, Ellen.
Thanks, Aveline. It's been a joy.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I did in hosting it. So please rate, review, and leave us a comment below. And finally, also, I'd love you to share it with a friend, someone who you think would get something positive from it, someone who would enjoy it. You know, we're here for each other, so please share the love. If you'd like to reach out and talk to me and learn about how you can make a bigger difference in the world by serving the ideal clients that you have with purpose, please get in contact over at journeypoint.com.au. See you on the next episode of 6 Star Leaders Podcast.